Flying on the back of a Spitfire, the story of LAWM Margaret Horton. On February 14th, 1945, Supermarine Spitfire AB-910 was part of No. 53 Operational Training Unit based at RAF Hibolstow in Lincolnshire, England. Standard procedure at this airfield was to have someone sat on the tail of a Spitfire in order to hold the plane down whilst it taxied, allowing it to cope in the frequent windy conditions. Leading aircraft woman Margaret Horton, a Women's Auxiliary Air Force mechanic, was sat on the tail of AB-910 during its start-up and taxi ride. When the Spitfire reached the runway, the aircraft controller gave the pilot, Flight Lieutenant Neil Cox, DFC, clearance to take off without noticing the extra passenger on the Spitfire. Cox was also blissfully unaware of her presence, so didn't give the signal for her to get off the aircraft. He put the throttle to full and took off, and Margaret Horton still on the tail. Cox climbed to 800 foot and completed one circuit of the airfield, but was then informed by the tower to land immediately, having noticed the predicament Miss Horton was in. The strength of her grip on the elevators, as well as her weight on the tail, nearly proved disastrous for the two individuals. Thankfully though, AB-910 managed to make a perfect landing, and Margaret Horton was able to make a safe dismount from the aircraft. She was then offered a sit-down and a cigarette to quell her nerves, and she had already returned to her work by the afternoon. Her account of the flight, made at a later date, goes as followed. We had reached a runway intersecting the one actually in use, and I was waiting for the aircraft to slow up for me to slip down, when I suddenly realised she was increasing speed. It was too late to jump off, so I flung myself across the fuselage and grassy elevator on the port side in a vain effort to attract the pilot's attention. Even before I had given up the attempt, the change of movement told me we were upstairs. There was nothing to hold on to but the cutaway corner of the elevator, into which I had inserted 3 fingers. Miss Horton definitely had a lucky escape. Spitfire AB-910 still serves in the Royal Air Force as a member of the Battle of Britain Memorial Flight, and is a display regular at air shows in the United Kingdom, as well as further afield. The flight of leading aircraft woman Margaret Horton still stands today as one of the most iconic flights of a Supermarine Spitfire of all time.